You can collateralize your pulse and do all these different things, right? So people do not have to sell their pulse coin. And now there's a native stable coin to the chain, backed by the value of pulse. That's excellent. What we saw was, there's this giant community, huge community of Pulsex holders that actually want the same ability. And you don't necessarily want them to have to sell their Pulsex and dump that to go get into Pulse. And then, it's okay. It's literally okay to have the same mechanisms with a different underlying piece of collateral, right? So we took the same liquidity fork over from the ETH side of things, and we're applying that so that you have the ability to do that with Pulsex.
I think there's multiple things you can do with your Pulsex tokens, right? And like Katie's saying, is it really depends on what you want to accomplish will help you drive to your decision, right? There's the single asset staking within Pulsex, right? And there's the Pulsex governance. And then there's, if you want to maybe instead be able to use the value of those tokens to mint a stable coin, you can do that with Earn, right? So you have different things that you can do depending upon what your goal is. If you want to stake it in Pulsex, you can. If you want to earn within the Earn token, the Earn protocol and mint stable coins, you can there, right? When you stake Watt, you earn Pulse tokens and whatever other tokens are being collected as fees from the apps within the ecosystem.
So you're not actually staking your Pulsex to earn a stable coin. What you're doing is you own Pulsex and you're saying, well, I like this thing, but I don't really want to sell it. Let me put it up as collateral and take a loan out against it. And when you do that, you're minting some value off of the value you just locked up. You're minting some stable coins that you can then go put to work for you. You can do whatever you'd like with those. You can take those and buy more Pulsex. You can go buy more Pulse. You could buy Hex. You could drop these stable coins in the internal stability pool of the protocol. And you're putting your what everyone hopes to be an appreciating asset to work with you for you without you having to sell it. Now, if everybody choices are good, right? So let me give an example. Let's pretend there is only one pool that everyone can participate in to do something with their Pulsex. One single-sided staking pool, and 500,000 people racing to get into that pool. Everybody throwing their tokens in there. Well, the yield would actually start high, as they always do, and it would go down very, very, very quickly, right? Then the mechanism that happens as the yield decreases is people exit the pool. They're not as enticed because the yield has come down, and they end up dumping their tokens, selling some of them because they'd like to see some value out of them, right? So now you have two pools, and now you have two places you could do this with. And actually having two pools helps the yield in both of them, right? Then you see a platform like an Aave fork, like Fiat, and you could do something in there. And then you see a stablecoin protocol where you can collateralize against your Pulsex. All these tools providing other options for people actually helps the token itself, because everyone has less dilution across these different places they could put it to work for them. Now, the important thing in selecting something that's a good candidate to use as collateral, and any lending platform, to include Aave, have to kind of look at some common themes. Is there big, thick liquidity? Is there lots of liquidity pools, right? Not just one tiny pool, that has $20,000 worth of liquidity that can be easily manipulated and everybody's left holding the bag. Okay. You would never want to collateralize, like a meme coin, right? That easily manipulatable and has a small pool, right? You wouldn't necessarily even want to collateralize some good assets that just have different mechanisms, to include Hex. Look, Hex is a good asset, but it's not necessarily something you would want to collateralize. And that's a whole nother discussion about how the liquidity pools work and the staking mechanisms and stuff. But then you look at something like Pulsex and you say, okay, 150,000 people participated in the sacrifice. There's endless liquidity pools that, the OA has created through the FixerBot process and redeployed liquidity, and actually a ton of stuff paired to this new token called Pulsex. You have all these single-sided staking pools. You have this buy and burn mechanism. You have some really cool things going on that all point to there's a huge user base that's going to be using this thing, and it's going to retain a lot of value and, some deep liquidity. Well, then you compare it against Uniswap, and you look at the chart on Uniswap, and you say, well, shoot, Uniswap is a duct tape on token that didn't do anything other than governance, and it performed well. It's got utility, and it's got a community behind it. You go look at Cake Token, and you say the same thing. Wow, it's got a huge community. It's got all these functions. It's got a big community. The performance of the token was really, really good. And then you just at least have to hope that Pulsex will do equal to or better than either Uni or Cake. The same way we hope that PLS will perform very well as well for other reasons. But if there's two tokens on the chain that are perfect to use as collateral, one would be Pulse and the other would be Pulsex. By the way, which at least on testnet, built by probably the benevolent OA, is the largest liquidity pool that is on the entire chain with $1.5 billion, fake dollars. It is a huge, gigantic pool. The biggest pool on chain, I believe, when it goes live, is going to be Pulsex paired to Pulse. You've got a couple options inside of the lending protocol. You can just buy some stable coins on the open market, right? Those are called the Pulsex dollar coin. And you can just park them in the stability pool and sit there and wait. And if ever there's a liquidation, some of your Pulsex dollar coin will burn, but you'll pick up more value worth of Pulsex, right, at that moment in time, right? And it's not a big deal because you're one of, thousands of participants. So on occasion, if there's somebody under collateralized and the price of Pulsex moves down a little bit, okay, and somebody were to be liquidated, their Pulsex gets distributed to all the stability depositors, and you pick that up, but you also burn a little bit less value worth of your own stable coins, right? So sitting in the stability pool with some stable coins earns you Pulsex, but it also earns you the incentive token that you can stake for the fees. That incentive token is called the earn token. You stake that, and you're earning constantly the Pulsex dollar coin, and you're earning Pulsex itself. Anytime somebody takes a loan out, that person's not going to have to pay any interest payment, but they do at the beginning of their loan, right at the beginning, have a one-time small borrowing fee of 0.5%. That 0.5% fluctuates as high as 5% depending on market conditions, but it usually hovers around 0.5%. That 0.5% of those Pulsex dollar coins gets spread across the stakers who are staking the earn token. So you have two places inside of this lending protocol. You have the stability pool. You park stable coins in there. You're earning Pulsex on occasion, but you're also earning earn token. You can use your earn token to go stake in the other pool to earn the fees. The fees are paid in Pulsex dollar coin as well as in Pulsex. All right. That is the lending protocol.
Because there is different aspects to it, the vault, the stability pool, and the staking side of things. And then there is two different protocols. So we can give you a bunch of stuff to read in terms of deploying and actually launching. So we need to obviously get a time frame for Pulsechain. If V3 is to be deployed in the next couple of weeks, then one can speculate that mainnet will be 2 to 6 months after. People need to remember it is a new blockchain. It is a new consensus model. It isn't the prior consensus. So they do need at least 2 to 6 months because, say, for instance, you're just a user and you're not on a development team, then you wouldn't know that B2B wasn't indexing every transaction. So the Explorer wasn't indexing everything properly. So now they had to fork Aragon and make client changes to it. And that seems to be purely more so for the Explorer to make sure that it's running efficiently and properly, indexing everything that happens on Pulsechain. So there is multiple different variables that they need to test and make sure that they're working and functioning perfectly, not just the consensus itself. So after they launch, there's going to be a volatile period. Pulse and Pulsex tokens, they will be volatile in the first couple of months. And each person that's deploying liquid loans and then ourselves, we don't want to deploy in that heavy volatile period. So we need to wait for that volatility to be leveled out. And that will come down to the founders choosing what best time period it is for them to be deploying. Everything is being built and worked on. And I think it's pretty awesome to watch multiple dev teams working on multiple different projects and then having our team work closely hand in hand with those devs for them to bring to life the designs and the innovation and the ideas that we're bringing forth that we want to see, which is just based around true DeFi and holding your own keys and finding a way to simplify DeFi for everybody. Because this isn't just a smart contract on the blockchain. This is a whole entire blockchain. And with that comes everything DeFi and every single DeFi protocol and different DeFi applications. And we want to be able to bring as many users into Pulsechain as we can and in the most simplistic way that we can. Because one of the next hurdles that we as a community face is how can we actually onboard people simply? If somebody is over on Polygon or Binance or Moonriver, how can we actually get them into Pulsechain easily? We go out and we sell Pulsechain to them. We give them the full rundown about everything, the potentials that it has, the new layer one, the most liquid DEX ever, the backing, Richard Hart. And then how do we actually get them on chain simply? Do we then have to try and talk them through how to go through each step along the way to be able to onboard into Pulsechain? Do we just leave them and hope to God they work it out themselves? Or do we build DeFi innovation and applications to help make that process simpler? So that's where our big yellow taxi routing protocol comes in. The ability to onboard people into Pulsechain in the most simplistic manner possible. Somebody that can just jump onto one front end and click a button and be able to move from whatever chain they're on into almost whatever token they hold, straight into whatever token that they want on Pulsechain. Whether it is a stable coin or whether it's Pulse itself, they have the ability just to be able to be routed to their destination without having to try and do it themselves. Cheaply and efficiently doing it for somebody removes the barrier to entry for adoption. And then building DeFi applications to help bring more users and keep those users on chain. Providing Pulsechain with stablecoins, being able to pair native stablecoins with Pulse and Pulsex to add a little bit more stability to those tokens, to being able to build DeFi applications like NFT marketplaces to then be able to go out to these other NFT marketplaces that are some forms being crippled because of gas fees. A lot of people are migrating off Ethereum right now because it is just too expensive in some areas to trade NFTs. It's hurtful to the collectors and the creators. So building applications that we can then go out and target those communities and bring them back to Pulsechain. And then being able to have the ability to implement features into bridges, like having the ability for people to be able to bridge their NFTs off Ethereum and bring those to Pulsechain. So they still have their native ETH NFTs. They can just trade them on Pulsechain on Pixel Park NFT Marketplace. Being able to provide services and applications to drive adoption, we think is a great feature that Pulsechain is going to need and the next hurdle that we're going to have to come.
So you could call me liquid loans junkie. I didn't sack as much for Pulse as I did for Pulse X. And when you're talking about meme coins, I watched the DEX tools and the transactions, and Katie just alluded to it. The thing about meme coins and why they're essential to Pulsechain and with Pulsex is buy and burn, it's because the meme coin transactions are usually smaller and people are in and out trading ridiculously. That'll burn the shit out of Pulsex. It'll be amazing. Then they'll learn more about other things that we're doing and get into more of Richard Hart's ecosystem. I mean, the smart ones will. So like I'm looking forward. I know all about liquid loans and liquidity now. Using the protocol, staking, providing stability, and using other different strategies. But to be able to do that with Pulsex, which has the buy and burn feature, and then people are also going to be single-sided staking. I mean, I was thinking about swapping ratio trading some of my Pulsex into more Pulse, but brakes on that now. So just want to commend everything you guys are doing. It's that you guys get this right, it's going to be fucking game over.
With Pulsex, the more applications that are built for people to earn passive income or to utilize their Pulsex for different means also reduces Pulsex on the market. And if you have less Pulsex on the market, then you obviously see more price volatility, and it's usually up and to the right, especially leading into a bull market and especially on a brand new layer one with certain tokenomics and mechanics. So there's a lot of positive outcomes to people building applications and DeFi protocols that help an ecosystem. I'm just going to be a maxi to our community. Our community is full of passive income, and it's passive income that isn't detrimental to the token or to the protocol itself, because obviously Richard Hart is the founder of Hex, and we all take on board everything that he says and we build around his notion because we all adopted it. We believe in delayed gratification, we believe in true DeFi, and we believe in passive income and bringing utility to things and bringing better options to the blockchain. So our whole entire ecosystem around Richard Hart is built on those narratives and on those morals and foundations. So I think this ecosystem is the place to be for everybody moving into the next cycle, and we all have Richard Hart to thank for that.